because I wanted to read the whole Bible from front to back. So we are going to turn up this light just a little bit. I know it might be hard to sleep with light, so I'm sorry for that. Turn down your brightness, or I hope you have YouTube Premium. So, I am on Genesis 9:23-10:7. The sons of Japheth. I don't think I'm going to go through the sons' names because there's just so many, so I'm just gonna go to the Tower of Confusion. So this would be Genesis 10:8-11:2, the Tower of Confusion. At that time, all mankind spoke a single language. As the population grew and spread eastward, a plain was discovered. In the land of Babylon, it was soon thickly populated. The people who lived there began to talk about building a great city with a temple power reaching to the skies, a proud, eternal monument to themselves. This will hold us together, they said, and keep us from scattering all over the world. So they made great piles of hard-burned brick and collected bitumen to use as mortar. But when God came down to see the city and the tower mankind was making, he said, "Look, if they were able to accomplish all this when they had just begun to exploit their linguistic and political unity, just think of what they will do later. Nothing will be unattainable for them. Come, let us go down and give them different languages so that they won't understand each other's words." So in that way, God scattered them all over the earth, and that ended the building of the city. That is why the city was called Babel, meaning confusion, because it was there Jehovah confused them by giving them many languages, thus widely scattering them across the face of the earth. Shem and his descendants. Shem's line of descendants included Arpachshad, born 2 years after the flood, when Shem was 100 years old. After that, he lived another 500 years. When Arpachshad was 35 years old, his son Selah was born, and after that he lived another 403 years, and had many sons and daughters. Selah was 33 years old when his son Ebba was born, living 403 years after that, and had many sons and daughters. I'm not going to go through the other names because it is very, very long. By the time Terah was 70 years old, he had 3 sons, Abraham, Nahor, and Haran. Abraham, the first patriarch, 11:27-25:18, Genesis 11:26-12:5. And Haran had a son named Lot, but Haran died young in the land where he was born, in Ur of the Chaldeans, and was survived by his father. Meanwhile, Abraham married his half-sister Sarai, while his brother Nahor married their orphaned niece Milcah, who was the daughter of their brother Haran, and she had a brother named Iscah. But Sarai was barren, she had no children. Then Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, his son Haran's child, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, and left Ur the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. But they stopped instead at the city of Haran and settled there, and there Terah died at the age of 205. Abraham, called by God. God had told Abraham, "Leave your own country country behind you and your own people, and go to the land I will guide you. If you do, I will cause you to become the father of a great nation. I will bless you and make your name famous, and you'll be a great blessing to many others. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you, and the entire world will be blessed because of you. God's promised homeland, Canaan. So Abraham departed as the Lord had instructed him, and Lot went too. Abraham was 75 years old at the time. He took his wife Sarai and his nephew Lot and all his wealth, and the cattle and slaves he had gotten in. Oops. I cannot edit that out, guys. Sorry. Oops. You know what? We're just gonna sit you guys here because I'm not in the mood to edit anything out today. Sorry if that guy's woke you up. Had finally arrived in Canaan. Traveling through Canaan, they came to a place near Shechem and set up camp beside the oak of Morah. This area was inhabited by Canaanites at the time. Then Jehovah appeared to Abram and said, I am going to give this land to your descendants. And Abram built an altar to those camaraderie at Jehovah's visit. Afterwards, Abram left that place and traveled southward to the hilly country between Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he made camp and made an altar to the Lord and prayed to him. Thus he continued slowly southward to the Negeb, pausing frequently. Abram's stay in Egypt. There was at that time a terrible famine in the land, and so Abram went down on Egypt to live. But as he was approaching the borders of Egypt, he asked Sarai, his wife, to tell everyone that she was his sister. You are very beautiful, he told her. And when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife, let's kill him, and then we can have her. But if you say you are my sister, then the Egyptians will treat me well because of you and spare my life. And sure enough, when they arrived in Egypt, everyone spoke of her beauty. When the palace outside saw her, they praised to the king and the Pharaoh, and she was taken into his harem. Then Pharaoh gave Abraham many gifts because of her: sheep, oxen, donkeys, men and women, slaves, and camels. But the Lord sent a terrible plague upon Pharaoh's household on account of her being there. Then Pharaoh called Abram before him and accused him sharply. What is this you've done to me? He demanded. Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why were you willing to let me marry her, saying she was your sister? Here, take her and be gone. And Pharaoh sent them out of her country under armed escort, Abram, his wife, and all of his household and possessions. The separation of Abram and Lot, the quarrel between Abram and Lot's herdsmen. So they left Egypt and traveled north into Negeb, Abraham with his wife and Lot, and all that they owned. For Abram was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. Then they continued northward, toward Bethel, where he had built a camp before, between Bethel and Ai, to the place where he had built the altar, and there he began to worship the Lord. Lot too was very wealthy, with sheep and cattle and many servants. But the land could not support both Abraham and Lot with all tribes of Canaanites and Perizzites present in the land. Then Abram talked it over with the Lord. This fighting between our men has got to stop, he said. We can't afford to let rift develop between our clans. Close relatives such as we all must present a united front. I'll tell you what we'll do. Take your choice of any section of the land you want and we'll separate. If you want that part over there to the east, then I'll stay here in the western section, or if you want the west, then I'll go over there in the east. Lot chooses Sodom in the Jordan Valley. Lot took a long look at the fertile plains of the Jordan River, well watered everywhere. This was before Jehovah destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. This whole section was like the Garden of Eden, or like the beautiful countryside around Zoar in Egypt. So that is what Lot chose, the Jordan Valley to the east of them. He went there with his flocks and servants, and thus he and Abram parted company. For Abram stayed in the land of Canaan, while Lot lived among the cities of plain, settling at a place near the city of Sodom. The men of this area were unusually wicked and sinned greatly against Jehovah. Abraham chooses Hebron and Canaan. After Lot was gone, the Lord said to Abram, look as far as you can see in every direction, for I am going to give it all to you and your descendants. And I am going to give you so many descendants that like dust they can't be counted. Hike in all directions and explore the new possessions I am giving you. Then Abram moved in his tent to the oaks of Mamre near Hebron and built an altar to Jehovah there. Abraham rescues Lot, the war of the kings. Now war filled the land. Emperor, king of Shinar, and Aronach, king of Elasar, Chet of Laoma, king of Elam, and Dedal, king of Goem, fought against Bera, king of Sodom, Persia, king of Gomorrah, Senub, king of Admah, Shemer, king of Seobam, and the king of Bela, later called Zoar. Sorry guys if I'm butchering these names. This is my literal first time reading through this, so sorry if I'm butchering. These kings of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zebion, and Bela mobilized their armies in Siddim Valley, that is the valley of the Dead Sea. For 12 years they had been subject to King Chet or Lama, but now, in the 13th year, they rebelled. 1 year later, Chet or Lamor and his allies arrived at the slaughter began, for they were victorious over the following tribes at the places indicted: the Rephaim and Ashtoreth, Carnium, the Zuzim, and all, the Emim and plain of Kirithaim, the Horites, and Mount Zur, as far as Al-Paran, as the edge of the descent. Then they swung around to En-Misfat, later called Kadesh, and destroyed the Amalekites, also known as the Amorites, living in Hazazon Tamar. But now was the other army that the kings of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zebion, and Bela Zoar unsuccessfully attacked Chad or Lamar and his allies as they were in the Dead Sea Valley. 4 kings against 5. As it happened, the valley was full as asphalt pits. As the army of kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some slipped into the pits. As the remainder fled to the mountains, then the victors plundered Sodom and Gomorrah, carried off all their wealth and food, and went on their own way. all of them all and chased after the retiring army as well as done. He divided his men and attacked during the night for several directions and persuaded the fleeing army to Oprah north of Damascus and recovered everything. The loot that had been taken, his relatives' lot, and all of Lot's possessions, including women and other captives. Abraham pays a tenth to Melchizedek as Abram returned from his strike against General Amar and the other kings of the valley of Sheva, later called King's Valley. The king of Sodom came out to meet him, and Melchizedek, the king of Salem, Jerusalem, was a priest of God of the highest heaven, brought him bread and wine. Then Melchizedek blessed Abram with this blessing. The blessing of Supreme God, creator of heaven and earth, be upon you, Abram, and blessed be God, who has delivered your enemies over to you. Then Abram gave Melchizedek a tenth of the loot. Abraham takes no booty. The king of Sodom told him, just give me back my people who were captured. Keep for yourself the booty stolen from my city. But Abraham replied, I solemnly promised Jehovah, the supreme God, creator of heaven and earth, that I will not take so much as a single thread to you. Let you say, Abram is rich because of what I gave him. All I accept is what these young men of mine have eaten, but give a share of loot, Aner, Esau, and Mamre, my allies. I'm ending on Genesis 14:19-15:6, page 23. Thank you guys so much for listening. You know I'm not going to do social media like outros or anything in this because it is, a Bible study, so I'll link everything in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want more, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.